Hey everybody, it's Heather here with Diamonds and Dragonflies, and welcome to part 3 of Mental Health and Diamond Painting. For those of you that have been following this series, welcome back. For those of you, if this is your first time here, I would like to suggest that you stop this video, go back and watch part 1 and part 2 before watching this one, so that you are getting the full experience of this series. It will be wrapping up. This is actually going to be my last pre-recorded video. I am debating on whether or not to go live sometime next weekend. And the purpose of the going live would be to allow you guys to have a Q&A. Where you guys can ask me questions and I can answer them in real time. If you have questions regarding the previous content or something that I didn't cover that you would like some information about. With that being said as well, since I haven't made a decision whether or not I'm going to do that, if there are some topics or some things you'd like clarified or things you would like to hear my thoughts or whether or not I am experiencing these things, please leave that in the comments. If you're uncomfortable about leaving them in the comments, my email is actually in the description box below this video. You are more than welcome to email me. And it doesn't have to be you just emailing me and saying, hey, Heather, would you cover this topic or, give your thoughts about this or that. It can be if you just need to reach out to someone and you just need a friend to talk to. I am here for all of you. I will give you as much of me as I can. That kind of varies from one day to the next with my mental and physical health journey right now. But I will at least acknowledge and reach out and try and get in touch with you. So I don't want you to feel like I am not here for you, because I am. This whole series, hang on. Sorry, I'm taking a new medication, Lyrica, for nerve pain, and it gives me awful dry mouth, so I'm like drinking constantly. What was I saying? This series has been very good for me in some ways and hard for me in others. It's very difficult for me to make myself this vulnerable and share these vulnerable, intimate details of my life with the world, basically, or at least my 198 subscribers. So it is difficult, to say the least. But it's been good for me to be able to possibly help somebody else. The feedback that I have received, the comments you guys have made, the people that have reached out via email or Facebook Messenger, you have no idea how much your comments, your support, your cheerleading for me has meant. Before I go any further into this video, I do want to state once again that I am not by any means giving any type of advice, medical opinions, or any such thing. Excuse me. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is my mental health journey. This is what has happened with me. This is what my experience has been. So with that, I am going to try and start to diamond paint today while we are talking about this, because I have found that being able to diamond paint while talking about it makes it easier, because this is my security. This is where I come to when I'm struggling. This is where I go when I need to take a time out, etc. So it makes it easier to talk about it while I diamond paint. So I am opening a new section. This is Winter Sparkle. This is my first perforated canvas, and I have mixed feelings about it. So I will share that in my next whip and chat. So, because I'm going to be doing this painting in that one, and I will go into that in more detail in an actual whip and chat where we're just chit-chatting and catching up. I try to keep this this series on task. I'm making a mess here. There we go. Got my cover minder up here on my thing. All right, got that going. Okay, let's pull this up. All right, come on. There we go. All right. Gotta load up my pen here. So, what I wanted to talk about this week is emotional reactivity and family. With suffering with bipolar / borderline personality disorder, and I say that because basically most people that have borderline personality disorder have bipolar tendencies. They don't officially have bipolar, but they have bipolar-like symptoms. So that goes on my quote-unquote diagnosis. This week has brought me some challenges with both immediate and extended family. So I wanted to talk about that. So I am 51 years old. I have pretty much been married to someone ever since I was 18 years old. I got married at 18. I had my first daughter when I was 20. Got divorced. Remarried 2 years later. Then had my next 2 children. Was married to my second husband for 9 years. And then I met my current husband, and we just celebrated our 17th wedding anniversary. Right? Hold on. 17th wedding anniversary. Just wanted to make sure. You know what? It might help if I get a color. So let me grab that first too. It's kind of hard to diamond paint if I don't have a color. Here we go. So my mental health journey basically started 4 years ago when I was finally diagnosed. I had seen therapists before when I was a teenager. I had seen therapists when I was married to my first husband. I had seen a therapist for a long time when my current husband and I got married. All I was ever diagnosed with was depression. That was it. Not long after my current husband and I were married, I had a mental break. Now, I'm going to share some personal details about my life and about my husband. And I am going to ask that in regards to this, you need to keep your opinions to yourself. I say that because I cannot handle hearing people tell me what I should or should not have done with the circumstances that had occurred. I have my reasons for why I did what I did, and we're just going to kind of leave it at that. Okay? I also do not want anyone throwing my husband under the bus. There are always 2 sides to every story. There is always reasons for why people do things, and they might not always be clear to others. My husband and I had been married for 1.5 years when I went back to work part-time. We had moved into a house. We were renting the house, but we were struggling to make ends meet. My daughter was an amazing dancer, my youngest, and she wanted to compete. And her dance troupe, it was very expensive to do these things. My son was doing swim lessons and he was doing karate, and all of the extracurriculars were financially breaking us. So I had been a stay-at-home mom since my son had been born. So I went looking for a job. My daughter was in kindergarten, my youngest, and my son was in 2nd grade. And I went to look for a part-time job that I could do while my kids were at school. Well, I got a job working for a church as the church secretary. The beauty of it was that it was just a part-time position. I only had to work 3 days a week, and one of those days I could work from home. The other beauty was that if my children had off, like if school was closed or whatnot, I could actually take my kids to school with me or take them to the church with me. So they could come to work. There was a nursery that was a playroom that was right outside of my office that they could, and it was just me there. No one else was there. The doors were locked. You had to be buzzed in. So pretty much the only person that I ever really saw while I was there was the minister. So if school was closed or, whatever the circumstance might be, I could bring my kids with me. And if need be, like if they were sick or whatever, I could work from home those days. So it was a perfect situation. So I was brand new to going back to work. I had been a stay-at-home mom at this point in time for about 7 years. And it was stressful. We only had one vehicle. My husband worked in town where we lived, but I worked 40 minutes away. So I was having to drop him off at work and then head to my work. So there were days where he had to go to work, like get to work maybe an hour before he was scheduled to work and just hang out. Or he might have to wait an hour in the evening or something until I got off work to come pick him up. Well, he started looking for and making, I guess, friends with some of his coworkers so that he could get rides to and from work. I was very stressed with taking care of the house, working part-time, taking care of the kids. It was a big adjustment. The whole sharing a vehicle. He was the only one that had a vehicle at the moment. I did not have a car. And he had an S10 Chevy pickup, 1990 something, because we're talking, this is like, I guess it would have been 2014. It was a stick shift. And yes, I could drive a stick, but I didn't like it. It was not, something that I enjoyed doing, and I very much dreaded. So I'm driving a vehicle that I don't like. I had been prescribed Zoloft for depression, and that's all I was being treated for. Well, I would get really upset about things. And when I say really upset, I'm talking about the slightest little thing happens and I would definitely overreact. You know, like, for example, the kid made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and they got peanut butter and jelly on the counter and didn't clean it up. I would respond and react like they had just slaughtered an animal in my kitchen sink. It would be awful, over the top, you know, etc. I had always considered myself to be a good mom. When I look back and I think about how I behaved and reacted to things that my kids did or did not do, I wasn't a good mother. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was not a good mother. Did I do the best that I could with my situation and my mental state and what I knew about it and how I was untreated, essentially? Yes. Does that mean I was a terrible mother? No, I didn't beat my children. I didn't, you know, I took my kids places. We did things together. We had fun. You know, I had a good, close relationship with my kids. They wouldn't lie to me. They would tell me things, you know. It was a very good relationship. But I could definitely overreact and blow up for no reason and get extremely upset. You know, like something that might have just annoyed or irritated someone could end up in me yelling and screaming and cursing for an hour or two, or depending on the thing, sitting and crying uncontrollably for an hour or more. Getting back to my husband getting rides. So I guess about a month or two into me working at this job, he went and told me that, and I just realized that I did something that I didn't want to do. I am doing these little bubble thingies with the crystals instead for the black 10. Okay, so anyway, my husband told me that one of his coworkers, at the time my husband was a floor manager at Target. He now does IT for the state of Pennsylvania. But he told me that one of his coworkers, Sandy, had to drive past his house. They worked the same shifts, and that she could pick him up and take him home, that would alleviate that need for me. I was like, that's wonderful. That's awesome. I knew Sandy. I knew her husband. We had gone out to dinner with them. She was an older woman at the time. I mean, my husband and I at the time were in our late 30s, early 40s. And she was, you know, heading towards 60. So I had no problem with it. You know, that was fine. Well, one morning, I was getting ready to leave for work. My husband was in the shower. And I needed some cash for the vending machines at work. And I asked my husband, hey, you know, do you have any cash in your wallet? And he said, yeah, I think so. Go ahead and get it. Okay, thanks. When I went to go get the cash out of his wallet, there was a piece of paper that someone had written their name on with a phone number. And they had put a little heart after their name. And it was very girly handwriting. I was late for work. I took the piece of paper. Right or wrong, invasion of privacy or not, whatever, I took the piece of paper. I got in the truck and I was driving to work and I called the phone number. A young woman answered the phone and I asked, who is this? I said, is this, the name on it was Melinda. And she said, yeah, who are you? And I'm like, well, I'm Kirk Wartburg's wife, and I'm wondering why he has your phone number with a little heart on it in his wallet. Well, she goes and says to me, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no way you're Kirk Wartburg's wife because I'm his girlfriend. Say what? The fact that I didn't have a car accident was a miracle. And then she hung up the phone on me. Well, you can imagine who the next phone call was that I made. The next call I made, of course, was to my husband. He gave me a story that she was a fellow coworker and that she had been giving him rides to and from work, and that he had lied and told me it was Sandy because he was afraid that I would overreact and read more into it than what it was. I knew he was lying. I could tell. I had not at that point divulged to him that I had called the number and what she had said. I couldn't calm down. I got to work. I called my mom. I called my best friend. I'm getting more and more and more upset. I called Melinda back. You need to stay the hell away from my husband. She met threat for threat. He doesn't want you. He doesn't need you. Everything else. Now, remember how I talked about triggers last week? And what is my number one trigger? Abandonment issues. Feeling and being afraid of being abandoned. Well, having someone tell me that my husband was in a relationship with them and that they were in love and, you know, all this other crap, that trigger went full commando mode. I mean, full, like, you know, give me a bazooka, I'm going to blow your ass up. I'm sorry, this is just not looking right. Like, it's not looking, I'm putting it over the little circle things, but it's, God, I hate it when I get putty on my painting. It drives me crazy. Got home. It was time for me to leave. I had been a wreck at work, crying for the 4 hours that I was there. Fortunately, no one came in. But I didn't have to deal with anybody face to face because I don't know that I would have done that. I was ranting, I was raving, I was screaming, I was crying, you know, like I said, it's a good thing that that I was there by myself. I was a mess. I only worked part-time, you know, I only worked part days. So I worked at the time, it was like 8 to 12. I left work at 12 o'clock and I drove straight to Target. I made a beeline straight to the stockroom, where I might add, obviously, I was not allowed to be there. I went back. I saw a woman, young woman. I'm actually going to call her a girl. She turned out to be 22 years old. I saw her texting on her phone and like giggling and stuff. And I walked up to her and I said, "Are you Melinda?" And she went, "Yeah, who are you?" I said, "I'm Kirk's wife." What do you want?" I said, "I want you to stay the hell away from my husband. You have no idea what I am willing to do to protect and keep my family. So you need to go the hell away." She told me, she looked right back at me, all smug, was saying things about the fact that, you know, he wanted her, he didn't love me anymore. You know, I was a psycho, etc. I punched her in the face. I punched her in the face. She was caught off guard. She fell down. She didn't pass out, but she fell down from me punching her, the force. And I said, "I told you not to mess with my family. I warned you." And I walked out. Well, obviously I was greeted by security. Security had already been alerted to the fact that I had gone into the back room. Now, I knew everybody that Kirk worked with for the most part. I did not know the stock people, but I pretty much knew everybody that worked on the floor and stuff with him. And when I came out, the assistant store manager, Mary, was standing there and she's like, "Heather, you need to leave." She said, "Please leave because I don't want to have to call the police to have you forcibly removed." I said, "I'm going." And she actually said to me, "I'm so sorry." That was part of what really hit me, was the fact that his coworkers knew what was going on. And they would see me multiple times a week and didn't feel like they could say anything and tell me. I ended up pulling up, our cell phone was in my name, our plan. I went and looked at our cell phone plan to find that they literally had been texting for like 8 hours a day, every day. Now, yes, I was working. So the 8 hours total a week that I was at my job was the only time that I couldn't realistically account for my husband's presence. Because I know he would go to work and he would come straight home. I mean, he would be home the regular time. He wasn't missing work. You know, I had access to his pay stubs and his time card. And so I knew that he was really working when he said he was. He told me that nothing had happened, that they had just been talking, that he needed someone else to talk to, that they had become friends, and she had gotten the wrong impression. That the only thing that had quote unquote happened at that point in time was she had given him some rides home. They had eaten lunch together at the store, you know, with other people. That she had started like showing up the nights that he worked nights. She wasn't working, but she would come into the store to like hang out and talk with him. But that it was more about the attention that she was giving him. I was very preoccupied with the kids. I was in a bad mood like all the time. Constantly yelling, screaming, carrying on over, you know, stupid shit. And, you know, nothing had happened. Like, you know, they hadn't had sex, they hadn't kissed, you know, nothing. I told him, well, you need to end it. You need to stop. I don't want you talking to this person anymore. I don't want you seeing them. I don't want you having anything to do with her ever again. She is not to give you rides home. I am actually we're going to solve this because I'm going to go get a car. You know, and I don't want this to be an issue anymore. Okay? Okay. Well, it wasn't okay. He wasn't handling the situation like I would. He was handling it the way that he wanted to handle it. And his way of handling it was essentially just ignoring it. So instead of saying something to her or telling her to stop, because she started leaving gifts in his, like all the managers had like a little like mail slot kind of thing where, you know, any information that they had to share with their team members and whatnot was put in, you know, and stuff like that. Well, she was leaving him gifts, stuffed animals, CDs. Yes, back when people actually bought CDs. You know, that kind of thing. She was not stopping. She was not taking his silence as we're done. And I'm like, you have to physically tell her that you want her to leave you alone. I'm like, come on. Well, my husband does not like having people tell him what to do. And I know now, I didn't know then, but I know now that, you know, part of my mental disorder was the fact that I thought that I was right all the time and that the way I would do things is how everybody should do them. And if you didn't do them the way that I felt that you should do them, well, you're dumb, you're stupid, and you're wrong. That was my belief. And I honestly and legitimately believed that that was true, that was just how it was. I never once thought or questioned that I could be wrong. Yeah, no, that's not a thing. Yeah, no, I'm not wrong. I'm never wrong. That was my belief. Plain and simple. There was constant conflict and fighting between him and I. because of the fact that I needed her to be out of our lives. She had started calling our house. She was constantly calling his cell phone. He was not answering it. Whereas I wanted him to answer the phone and say, look, you need to stop calling me. I do not want anything to do with you. I am married. You misread this situation, or, just I'm sorry if you got the wrong impression, etc. We're through. There is no us. There never was an us, and there never will be an us. That's what I needed him to do. And that's what I felt like he should be doing. He had a difference of opinion as to how he wanted to handle it. He did not want to be confrontational. He did not want to confront her about the obsession, about the stalking, etc. It wasn't until she called our home, or she called my cell phone, because she had my number from when I called her. Oh, and just as a little break, if you were watching and you saw what I was doing, my diamonds were all screwed up. I don't know how I got them all wonky. I just used this straightener. This one is from Bella Art de Nicole, and just ran it down through, and it pushed the drills and lined them back up, that they are now correct as to where they belong. Since I don't know what was going on. It was like I was drunk walking or something with my drills. So we got into a heated argument the one night. And keep in mind, I was spending almost every day crying, yelling, screaming, needing constant assurance. I know now, full 100% triggered. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but I didn't know any of that then. I didn't know what was going on. I thought this was a natural reaction, and that anyone who had to deal with what I was dealing with, that this is how they would react. That plain and simple. Well, it turns out that that was my first mental break. I got upset to the point that I locked myself in our bathroom, and I proceeded to start cutting myself. I had never done that before, but I had taken a razor blade, and I was just cutting lines and drawing blood into my arm. I wasn't trying to slit my wrists, but I was cutting. I was saying things and threatening to kill myself. My husband got so desperate that he called my ex-husband and asked him to come over and to try and talk to me to see if he could reason with me. Well, let's just say that made matters 10 times worse. They called the doctor, my primary care, and his response was that I needed to be taken, we lived in Maryland at the time, that I needed to be taken to Shepherd Pratt immediately for immediate psychiatric assessment. So he finally got me into the car, and we drove the 45 minutes to Shepherd Pratt. I was seen and taken back. My husband was with me because I was kind of catatonic at that point. I couldn't literally form words. Like I was so distraught and so upset that I could not function. They prescribed some medication, Valium, and follow up if need be. And it was recommended, that I get a therapist and start seeing someone regularly. And at that point in time, I had not been seeing a therapist since I had divorced my second husband. I didn't feel like I needed to anymore. So I saw my new therapist. I was seeing her 2 or 3 times a week. And literally, the only diagnosis that I was being given was that I was depressed, that I was majorly depressed. My doctor recommended that I take FMLA leave, but I needed to not be left alone, that my husband needed to take leave to be able to stay with me and take care of me and the children. And that was it. Saw her for a few years. Things seemed to be getting better, and things were better with my husband and I, and I stopped going. Fast forward to when we moved to Pennsylvania. When we moved to PA, it was a huge change. One, my oldest daughter, Samantha, was no longer going to be living with us. We had gotten her into a residential day program and a residential living program, I guess, where she would be living in an apartment or a townhouse. She started out in an apartment. She's in a townhouse now, with 24-hour staff. She's got 12 on, 12 off, awake staff, because Samantha functions at the level of a 6-year-old. So someone else was taking care of my child, which I was having difficulty with because, once again, hey, control issues. No one's going to take care of her like I would. So they're all wrong in how they're treating my child. Wow, I just really feel like I just cannot diamond paint today. I didn't want to move to Pennsylvania. I didn't want to live here. I didn't want to live on the street that we were living on. When we moved into the house, we found out a whole bunch of crap that was wrong with the house that was not previously disclosed. And I wanted to move back home. I don't like change. That's another part of my borderline personality disorder. I do not like change. So I did not like the fact that we were living in a different state. My kids were going to a different school. I didn't like it here. I didn't like living in the city. I liked living in we lived in the city limits in Maryland, but it was a more rural city. I was unhappy. I was miserable. My husband was still working in Maryland, but he had an 1.5-hour commute every day, each way. So I felt abandoned because it took him longer to get home. My son was leaving for college when we moved here. We moved into this house June of 2017. August of 2017, he started at Virginia Tech. So I've already lost my oldest daughter. She's living in a town, well, at the time, an apartment in Maryland. My son is going off to college, and that just leaves me, my husband, and my youngest, who was a junior in high school. Emily hated her school. It was not a safe environment for her. So she ended up doing a cyber school to finish for her last 2 years of high school, which I loved because she was then home with me. Yes, she was doing her schoolwork, but she was home with me all day. My husband and I were fighting constantly. His drinking had increased. That was bothering me. We were fighting about that. I was miserable because I didn't want to be here. So there were all the things. We were fighting, literally tooth and nail. 2019, I was in a car accident. My left arm suffered. I ended up needing to have rotator cuff surgery done. 3 out of 4 tendons in my left rotator cuff were torn, and my bicep was shredded. I was in level 10 pain every day for over 2 weeks before they finally got it approved for me to have surgery to fix it. My recovery was hard. Things were just getting worse and worse. I had started seeing a therapist who is the therapist I still see now. She was going off of all of my previous diagnoses. She kept suggesting that she thought I might have bipolar 2. But the problem is that there was never any manic episodes. I didn't have any addictions. I did not go manic. I would just get very emotionally upset about things to the point of overreacting. Well, as I said, my daughter has a bachelor's degree in clinical psychology. My daughter was a freshman in college, and her freshman year, the spring of her freshman year, is when COVID hit. And she came home and she was doing school from home. Well, one of the classes that she was taking was on personality disorders, which she found absolutely fascinating. She had already always discussed the fact that she wanted to work with people that had personality disorders. I was very upset. My husband and I had had a really big fight because I had overreacted about something. And my daughter comes down to me. I'm sitting on the couch cross-stitching. Mom, I need to talk to you. Okay, what's up? Mom, I think you have a personality disorder. Now, my ex-husband, her father, for years after we got divorced, because we butted heads left and right constantly all the time, had repeatedly gone and stated the fact that he thought I was bipolar and would make nasty derogatory comments in regards to it. I said, have you been talking to your father? And she goes, no, Mom, I don't think you're bipolar. Oh, okay. Can you read this and tell me if this sounds like you, how you feel? Before you make any judgments, please. Okay. So she gave me something to read from her textbook, and I read it, and I immediately started to cry. Mom, it's going to be okay. We just need to get you the help that you need. And it was an article or a segment or whatever about diagnosing people with borderline personality disorder. How it is very similar in a lot of ways to bipolar disorder, but there are significant differences. One of them being the fact that bipolar is diagnosed from people having manic and depressive episodes. With borderline personality disorder, it's just emotional reactivity, meaning that you overreact emotionally to stimuli and events that happen, etc. She went with me to my next therapy appointment and brought it up to my therapist. My therapist admitted that she did not have any experience with having a client with borderline personality disorder. So she could not, in all good conscience, state that yes, that's what I had, but that she was going to look into it and see what assessments there were to diagnose someone with borderline personality disorder, because she was not familiar with it. But she was going to do the work and do the research to figure it out. Came to my next session. Let me back up. She had sent me some paperwork and some assessments to do at home, and said to send them back to her, and then she would score them, and we would talk about it in my next session. I need more than one hand, people. I need one to hold the tray still, and I need one to hold the perforated cover that is slightly off. So, yeah. Okay. There. We're all good there. So, in the meantime, I'm feeling and acting like I need to be committed. Okay? Lock me up, throw away the key. I am cuckoo crazy. You talk about someone having emotional reactivity. Well, I was having all the emotions, all the reactivity in regards to this new information. I was so consumed with not having a reaction, because I was determined that I was going to prove and show that I could control my emotions, and therefore everyone else was wrong. Yeah, that wasn't happening. Athena, no. I just couldn't. I couldn't cope. I couldn't deal. I couldn't accept it. Then the worst part was when I found out that there's no medication that you can take to treat it. You can treat parts of it, like you can treat the depression part, you can treat the anxiety part, but there's no medication that you can take that's going to make you not feel like you're being abandoned. There's no medication that you can take that is going to tell you, oh wait, you shouldn't be acting this way. It doesn't exist. No, it did say that you could help regulate your emotions somewhat by taking mood disorder pills. So the number one prescribed mood disorder pill is Depakote. So my doctor put me on Depakote. Yeah, that ended up badly. Heather couldn't feel anything. I literally became completely numb. I was kind of like whatever to everything. I couldn't get happy. I couldn't get sad. I couldn't feel anything at all, period. Well, we don't want that either. So we tried a couple of other drugs that have been known to be used potentially to help with the symptoms, and nothing worked. It wasn't until about a year ago that my doctor put me on, I was having some heart issues, and he put me on amitriptyline, or she put me on amitriptyline, which is old school, and a lot of people can't tolerate it. I happen to, fortunately, be able to tolerate it, and it is used to help treat and regulate moods, but it also does things to help your heart as well. It has really helped. It has helped me be able to keep my moods in check so that I can take the time to actually process what's happening, to figure out whether or not how I need to respond to it so that I'm not over responding to it. It has helped me be able to just walk away from certain situations instead of engaging in negative behavior. Prior to being put on this medication, things, like I said, were bad, and I started cutting again. And I was cutting a lot. I don't know how well it shows up on camera, but you can see all the scars on my arm. I don't try and hide it. I don't lie about it, because I have had multiple people, multiple medical professionals go and say, oh, do you have a cat? No. Well, how did you get all those scratch marks on your arm? I cut. I'm not saying it like I'm proud of it, because I'm not. I'm just not lying and covering it up. I'm owning it. At the time, as of this filming, I have not cut myself since May of 2023. I have been working on and finding ways, better ways to handle my feelings, my emotions, etc. In case you are wondering, cutting is not directly related with attempting suicide. I did not cut myself because I wanted to die. People cut because they are in so much emotional pain that they can't stop it and they need to. So they cause physical harm to themselves so that the body and the brain reroutes your pain from being emotional pain to physical pain. And for someone that is suffering with emotional pain, they need that to be able, that change, to be able to have any chance of collecting themselves and calming themselves down when you don't have the tools to do it otherwise. And I didn't have the tools. It is not a mark on my therapist that I did not have the tools, because let me tell you something about my therapist. When I was diagnosed as having borderline personality disorder, when the assessment showed that, yes, I hit the nail on the head, she immediately went and found workshops and continuing education opportunities for her to learn how to treat someone with borderline personality disorder. One of the main treatments that they talk about is doing dialectical behavior therapy, DBT, as opposed to cognitive behavioral therapy. That does not work for me. Been there, done that. That was the first route we took. I'm not trying to say this like I'm bragging, so please don't take it that way, but I'm too smart for my own good, so to speak, in the fact that I'm too intelligent to allow my mind to be reconfigured, so to speak, for dialectical behavior therapy to have any type of grip or hold on me to work. But getting back to my therapist real quick, she told me, she was upfront and honest. If I want, she can find someone else to refer me to that specializes in borderline personality disorder, to just let her know. Well, I stuck with her. And I'm really glad I did. And it's not once have I felt that it was the wrong choice. She has gone above and beyond with figuring out things and finding new treatment methods and books for me to read, because I like to research and know what I'm dealing with. So she was doing all of those things for me. I have now been seeing the same therapist for 5 years. And between her and diamond painting, they've both saved my life. Now we are at the hour mark here, so I think we're actually a little over. So I guess there will be a part 4 before I potentially go live, so that I can continue down this path. To kind of throw into how diamond painting has helped me with that. When I get upset now, instead of cutting myself, instead of wanting to hurt myself to make the emotional pain stop, diamond painting allows me to do something that I love, that brings me happiness, and to use that to show me that instead of hurting myself, causing myself physical pain in order to deal with my emotional pain, I can deal with my emotional pain by looking at something that brings me joy and happiness and that brightens my day. And that's mine and only mine. I don't have to share my diamond painting with anyone. I don't need anyone to do it with me. It's mine. What I make, what I do, it's mine. And that brings me joy. And that helps me and helps prevent me from hurting myself in order to stop the pain. Now, obviously, I have other tools in my toolbox that allow me finally to get to the point where I can do that. And we will, I guess, talk about that and unpack that. My therapist would be so great that I use those terms, unpack that. We'll do that next week. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here. I hope that this video, along with the others in the mental health series, bring you insight, comfort, that if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, or another mental illness or bipolar disorder, that you're not alone. It's not hopeless. You're not doomed, which is how I felt. I felt like I was doomed to live my life alone. No one was going to want to be my friend. No one was going to love me. No one was going to care about me. That I was just some defective entity in this world. And of course, now I know that that's not the case. And I hope that if you have been feeling that way, that you hear my words and know that that is not the case. No matter what you are suffering through, there is a way out. Might take a while to find it, but there is a way out. And in the meantime, pick up that diamond painting pen and start putting drills on a canvas. Watch beauty unfold in front of you. Concentrate and focus on each individual drill as you lay it down, instead of the chaos that your life might be at right at that moment. There is a way out. I have climbed down the rabbit hole more times than I can count. And I have clawed my way back to the surface. You have the strength within you to do that. You have the strength within you to claw your way back to the surface. Because the closer you get to that edge to pull yourself over, you are going to find people like myself and others here in the diamond painting community that are ready to help throw you a rope, lend a hand, and help pull you to the surface. You are never alone. If nothing else, I am always here for you. So please know that, please believe in that, and please take care of yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for helping me through my mental health journey, because you guys being here, subscribing to my channel, donating to my channel, means everything to me. So if you are new and you have not yet subscribed, I hope you do. I hope you join our little dysfunctional family here. And know that you are not alone in your journey. You're not alone in your struggles. And I'm not going anywhere. You can't get rid of me. Sorry. I'm like a bad penny. I keep showing up. All right, everyone. Well, thank you again. I appreciate all of you so much. And I will see you in my next video. But there will be a part 4 now of the mental health series. And then, but please do leave me a comment. Let me know if you would like me to go live and have a Q&A, or if you don't think that's a good idea and why you don't think it's a good idea. If you have questions or want something, talked about or discussed, but you don't want to leave a comment below, send me an email. Shoot me an email and we'll talk about it. All right, everyone. Take care. Know you are loved and go make something sparkly and shiny. Bye, guys.